Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Black Man Speak. I'm your co host, the J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, the Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. It is Wednesday, September the 18th, 2024. And if it's Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Man Speak.
yes, sir.
So, Tom, if you're watching the show tonight, please go ahead and hit that like button to help us with the algorithm and hit the notification so you'll be notified when new shows are uploaded, which is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central Time. The show starts at 8 p.m., but the show is uploaded to YouTube at 9 p.m. for those who want to watch it later. And then if you're here watching the show live, invite a family member or a friend or a coworker so you guys have something interesting to talk about for the rest of the week. With that being said, Tom, we want to give a shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music. And you guys may notice my office is a little dark. That's only because I'm treating my eyes from a shingle infection, and the excessive light sort of bothers my eyes. So I'm purposely dark so you don't have to text in that give me turn the light on. I already know that. So with that being said, Tom, let's do what we do best, which is bring the most progressive news about the Black community to social media. And so let's do what we do best.
All right, folks. We have definitely got a jam-packed show tonight. A lot of interesting information, folks. So tune in, and if you are not on our chat line, go ahead and join that. I have cousin Audrey K already on the chat line, ready to go, because we want your feedback
We
on
need your
our show
feedback.
in our stories, because we present it to you, but we need your feedback. Your information and your feedback is just as important as what we bring to this show, because it is your show. So let's go ahead and get the ball rolling, Jimmy. We've had a lot of folks who are going into the realm of ancestry, and we have got a couple of more folks this week that we want to share some information with you. You probably already know one, you probably do know, and one you may not know, but let's go ahead and roll it out. You may or may not know this beautiful face. Her name is Michaela DePrince, who at the tender age of just 29 years old has transcended into being an ancestor. She is a she was a ballet dancer who became the youngest principal dancer at the Dance Theater of Harlem, who passed away just last week on September the 10th at the, of course, age of 29, originally from Sierra Leone. She danced with the Boston Ballet, the Dutch National Ballet, and of course the Dance Theater of Harlem. She escaped from civil war in Sierra Leone and was adopted by an American family in 1999, along with her sister Mia. And the sad thing about that, Jimmy, just one day after she had passed, her adoptive mother, Elaine DePrince, passed away during a routine procedure in preparation for surgery. So she passed one day, and her adoptive mother passed away on the next day. So we definitely want to send our prayers out to the ballet community, of course, the family of Mr. Prince, and all of those who knew her and loved her. At 29 years old, Jimmy, you just don't expect.
Far too young, Tom.
Far too young. So we definitely want to send our prayers and our condolences to her family and to the community. And we will, of course, continue to remember her in our prayers. You know, this other person, this other face, Jimmy, you probably know, we know. Only folks who probably don't know her, folks are probably Generation Alpha, maybe some of your younger Gen Zers. That is Tito Jackson, who just
Tito.
Yeah, he just became an ancestor.
From the Jackson 5, man, the guitar player.
Exactly, just transcended, became an ancestor at the age of 70. One of the brothers who, of course, became a part of the iconic group, the Jackson 5. He was the third of 9 children who became a part of this music making power family whose songs sold hundreds of millions of copies worldwide. Yes. The Jackson 5, among the last of the major groups launched through Berry Gordy's Motown empire, included Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and of course, Michael. Gordy signed them in the late 1960s when Motown's power was beginning to wane and tastes were kind of shifting from the Motown sound to the funkier R&B sounds of Sly and the Family Stone. And the Jackson 5 was actually inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997, of course, including Tito. So we, of course, want to send our condolences to the family, the music world, and all of those who knew and loved the Jackson 5, their family. And, of course, keep them in your prayers, folks. We are losing them, it seems, week to week. And you just can't take anything for granted.
No, you cannot, Tom.
So we also have, looks like we have Miss Tanya on the chat line. We have Miss Audrey, Miss Tanya on the chat line today. So let's go ahead and get started with a few of our stories. Jimmy, you know, we won't spend a lot of time because we've got a lot of meat on the bone today, but I know you're just as much of a football and a sports fan as I am. And of course, we talked last week about the rounding victory of the Cowboys over the Cleveland Browns. And it seems like they completely flipped the script and got blown out by the New Orleans Saints. Jimmy, everybody was talking Super Bowl last week. And of course, you can't.
Nobody was talking Super Bowl last week.
There was some folks talking Super Bowl
There
last
was nobody talking Super Bowl last
week.
week.
You weren't talking Super Bowl last week.
Who?
You weren't talking.
I did not.
But no, I said you were not. But there were some people. Of course.
Nobody in Cowboy Kingdom was talking Super Bowl last week, Tom, because we've gone through this so many times, and I've said it last week, and I'll say it again, and I've been saying it for the last couple of years now. The Cowboys are a good team, but they're not a great team. The Cowboys, they beat up on the scrubs, which you're supposed to, and they struggle against really good teams. Every now and then they get lucky and they beat a really great team. And they're about 500 against other good teams. They're generally like 1 for 5 against great teams. And that's just who they are. And come playoff time, they'll make it to the playoffs. They'll win 10 games, 11 games, 12 games sometimes, make it to the playoff, and they get exposed against great teams because that's all that's left in the playoff of really good teams. There are no more Sisters of St. Mary playing. There are no North Carolina Panthers playing. So all you get is really good teams. And either you are the bait or you're a piranha. And the Cowboys haven't been a piranha for a very long time. So they end up being bait, which means they lose in the first round to a team that is a piranha. And the Saints, definitely a piranha. People thought it was like this was an aberration against the Panthers for them to score, I think, 44 points. 49 points against the Panthers, one of those, 40 plus, and on 9 straight possessions. But then it wasn't, because they played the Cowboys and they did the same thing. 7 or 8 straight drives they scored on. So, and then this was supposed to be a Cowboys with a pretty good defense. They have a good pass rush defense. They don't have a good run defense, but even their pass rush defense, Tom, got exposed.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, they scored, was it 5 or 6 straight touchdowns on possession?
They scored 7, Tom.
7 straight, not scores, touchdowns on 7 straight drives?
Yes.
That is humiliating.
And here's the thing, Tom. The Cowboys scored 4 of their first 5 possessions, and they were still down double digits. I think they were still down like 19 points at that point. But
they were scoring field goals, Jim.
They scored 1 touchdown. But yeah. But Tom, just to score 4 out of 5 times in the first half means that you should either be in the game or it should be close. You shouldn't be down double digits. That's just how bad it was. They came out in the third quarter and they drove the field, kicked another field goal, got to 19. But then the Saints went on this 8-minute drive, 8.5-minute drive to kill the quarter and score. And that pretty much took the win out of the sail of the Cowboys. They had nothing left. They had no answers. So it wasn't even worth watching beyond that point.
So the question is it poor game plan, poor scheme, lack of execution? I know a little bit of all of it, but who is the primary blame? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, they got out schemed, they got out coached, they got outplayed on offense and defense. And last I checked, I don't remember the last time the New Orleans Saints have been to the playoffs. And so they're not a Super Bowl returning champ that they got thrown out by.
So you know what it is, Tom? The league has changed, and the Cowboys haven't really changed with it. And let me explain what I mean by that. This is why I say it doesn't pay to give out these big contracts anymore to veteran players. Uh, Work the young players through the draft. After 5 years, let them go. Let them go someplace else and make the big money, because big money doesn't guarantee you anything anymore. You know what's driving the league now for success are the coaches. You have to be able to coach young players on how to play the game. So if you look at the Saints, the Saints pretty much have the same team they had last year. Their running back, I can't think of his name.
Alvin Kamara.
Kamara, yes. He hadn't been anything since 2020. In the last 3-4 years, he hasn't really been much of a running back. He's just been the Saints starting running back. He's been okay. But Tom, he's been spectacular this year. Why? Because the coach on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, have put the team in position to be successful. Now, I heard a lot of people on radio, talk radio, claim that the motion, all of the motion, gives the Cowboys problems. Well, you know what? I went back and rewatched the game, and the Saints had a lot of plays, especially in the second half, where they did no motion. They just lined up, and especially when they got around the red zone, one of the touchdowns in the first half of the game, where Kamir ran for 19 yards, they just lined up, man on man, two tight ends, and just bum rushed the Cowboys. He went untouched and got into the end zone, Tom. So that was not motion. That was not moving people around. That was just man-on-man blocking, and the Cowboys got pushed off the ball so badly that, like I said, he got not even a fingernail touched him as he made his way into the end zone. So a little bit of talent and some really good coaching. Young coaches now who have better schemes and know how to put their team in position to win are the Rams, the 49ers, a lot of those Shanahan-type coaches. Those is what you need. We still have a dinosaur, Tom.
Well, you're
Big
right.
Mike is not going to do it for us.
And
he got us as far as he's going to take us.
Okay, so in the grand scheme of things, is this a more of a Zimmer issue? Is this a McCarthy issue, or
it's a coaching issue?
Well,
you have to have teaching coaches.
Are we talking about Zimmer, the defensive coordinator, or McCarthy, the head coach?
Both of them, Tom. Zimmerman got out coached also.
Yeah.
He did a good job against a suspect Cleveland team who had a quarterback just return off injury. They didn't look very good last week or this week. So that defensive victory may be a little suspect. But the Saints, who look really good against a weak team and a pretty good pass rush defense, they nullified our pass rush defense, Tom. Our rush defense was just not there, and they totally manhandled the Cowboys on offense and on defense. So it is what it is. The Cowboys they're a good team. They're not a great team. So don't expect great results.
And I've always said that. And the reason they are a good team and above average team is because of the culture. And the culture in this case is not set by the head coach. It is set by the owner, Jerry Jones, who is not willing to hire a coach who is innovative, who has control over the team, and who is going to bring them into the 21st century, because quite frankly, the Cowboys are still operating in the 20th century. And so as a result, my whole thing is until Jerry's gone, and I mean gone, they not sniffing a Super Bowl. And unfortunately for Cowboys fans, that's the way it is, because he is retreading the same thing. And I say Mike McCarthy is a retread because he was sitting on the sidelines, not with a bunch of job offers when Jerry decided to get him. He got fired because one of the best quarterbacks in modern football history ended up losing confidence, of course, in him. And so that's the reason why he got fired from the Green Bay Packers, because Aaron Rodgers said, no mas, no mas.
Well, we may have to say no mas to him also. Well, Jerry didn't renew his contract, so this should be pretty much his last year. But I don't know if that means they're going to go out and hire a nice young coach who's innovative. They may go get another retread coach. We'll see.
Well, hey,
but this year, do not expect very much from the Cowboys, other than really weak teams. They'll beat up on them and get their victories and pad their stats. But against really great teams of the league, don't expect other than maybe one fluke win. The 4 or 5 games against really good teams, they're going to lose. and
All right.
then they'll hold their own against other good teams and go about 500. So
Gotcha.
that'll get them to 10 to 11 victories.
All right. Within 1 minute, we've got one more sports thing.
Okay.
Carolina Panthers just benched Bryce Young. Is it a quarterback issue? Was it that bad of a pick, or is it an organizational issue who didn't do enough to put the right tools around the quarterback so that he could evolve?
Bryce Young is a really good quarterback. We saw what he did at Alabama. He's very accurate
Yes.
in the pocket. He makes really good decisions. He just doesn't have a line in front of him, doesn't have a running game, and he doesn't have enough weapons. He probably had more talent back at Alabama than he has right now.
I would agree with you 120%. It is sad that they have possibly broken a marquee quarterback who looks shell-shocked on the field, can't get it to a player, and literally looks confused on the sidelines. It is sad.
Well, Tom, it's a little different when you're playing college ball. When you get some big players, fast players that you're going against, guys you're going to compete against the NFL. But guess what? When you get to the next level, the NFL, everybody is good. Everybody's an All-American at high school or some award. Even the seventh round players who make the team are really good. And so you get, a guy who weighs 325, 330, hitting you, landing on you. Those hits take their toll at some point. And so, yeah, it's not that hard to become shell-shocked when you're underweight quarterback. And he's an underweight quarterback. So I worry about quarterbacks like him and RG3. I used to worry about
RG3 was good until the coach ruined his career by keeping him in a playoff game that they weren't going to get past and ended up completely blowing out his knee. That was a coaching issue. Shanahan.
Well, that may be true, Tom. So, but these underweight quarterbacks, man, you got to be careful in the NFL because it doesn't take much of a hit for some of these guys to really knock you until tomorrow. So, so we'll see. Hopefully, man, they figure some things out, and we'll see. Sometimes it also takes moving to the right team, Tom. So he may not be with the right team. So
or the right coach.
So if they'll keep him around because he was a really high draft pick, they're paying him a lot of money. And so, but if it doesn't work out in 3-4 years, I'm sure they'll either trade him or they'll cut him. And so hopefully maybe his next team will be a better fit for him.
All right, Jimmy, it is a little bit past quarter past the hour. And of course, it's now time to go to our music contest where you get to get in a draw for something very nice at the end of this year, which we're getting pretty close. So we're going to bring up a song, a cappella version. Identify either the artist of record or the title, the official title of the song. And once you do that, you can either get 1 point for getting the name, the title, the name of the artist, the name of the song, or if you get both of them, you get 2 points. We're going to do that. And then, of course, we have probably about another 15 minutes. We have a movie. So let's go ahead and start with our music contest.
Tom, if get your fingers on the keyboard, get ready.
Yes.
But Tom, if there anybody who get this wrong, you let me know. We're gonna put in a request to revoke their black card. So here we go.
All right, let's go.
It must have fallen out of a hole in your old brown overcoat. They never said your name, but I knew just who they meant. Whoa, I was so surprised and shocked, and I wondered too if by chance you'd heard it for yourself. Yeah, now, baby, I never told the soldiers how I've been feeling over you. But they said it really loud, they said it on the air.
All right, Jimmy, we've got a couple of responses in.
Okay.
And let's see who got the correct version first. Okay. All right, Jimmy. It looks like we've got a split.
Okay.
This is the deal. The first person to get the artist right is Miss Marion Square. She is on the block. The challenge is that she got part of the name right, but she didn't get the full name right. The first person to get the full name right was Monsieur Noir, which is Seth L. Bailey. So Marion Square gets the full name right, but she said radio. That's not the full title of the song.
No, it's not. It's on the radio. So
yeah, so on the radio, the first person to say on the radio, the full title was Seth L.
Okay.
So we've got it split between Miss Marion and Seth L. Congratulations to you both. And now we're gonna go ahead and get to our.
Were there any crazy answers, Tom? Anybody submit?
Not this time. I think everybody did say Donna Summer. Yeah, I think everybody did get the artist right this time, so we don't we don't have to blow anybody up and take their cards.
All right.
All right, Jimmy, let's go ahead and get started. First, we've got to start with something that we unfortunately missed out because we ran out of time last week. We were going to talk a little bit about, of course, the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and kind of discuss feedback on it. And also, we want to hear your feedback on this as well in terms of what your thoughts were on the debate, in terms of what you liked, what you didn't like, and who you thought had the edge. So, all right. Okay, Marion, no. Okay, the person who just won said Roger Troutman. She knew it was not Roger Troutman from Zap.
Okay.
She was playing.
I think she's trolling you, Tom.
Yeah, she is. She's trolling. But we do got a couple of other folks who are on the line. In addition to Audrey K and Miss Tanya, we got Miss Faith Fleming who is on the line. So definitely thank you for joining us, Miss Faye. I know she's very busy, rarely gets a chance to come on. Of course, Seth L. is on the line now. So we want to thank you for joining us, and we need your thoughts as we get into these stories. All right, let's talk presidential debate. I'll let you start, Jimmy.
Well, Faith is a good friend of ours. We've known her for a very long time. So a quick shout out for Faith. If you need a speaker or a marketing expert, please reach out to her. She's on Facebook, and she's definitely on LinkedIn for sure. So if you need either of those or both, please look her up. She's great. So presidential debate, Tom. I think there's two ways to judge this, and I'm going to use the Tommy Duncan version of judging this, because Tommy said that it's all about rings and championships. It's all about the results, and it's not so much about the style points. And I think that for the people who look at the debate and judge it on style points, you may say the vice president maybe won the debate on style points. But if you look at substance and who was tuning in and who gave their approvals for each speaker, and then based on the survey results that were taken before and after the debate, which CNN eventually took the video clip of that down, don't want to share with the public anymore. Then you would say on the substance and the quality of the response that Trump won. So depends on which camp you line up with, style or substance, then that will pretty much dictate how you felt, which candidate or which person you think won the debate.
That was pretty funny. Style versus substance. It wasn't style versus substance. It was really, debate credibility and who stuck to the script versus who responded. And pretty much most folks, I would say at least 75 folks, with the folks who are going to say their person won either way, including folks from both sides of the camp, said that Kamala Harris actually was stronger in terms of her overall performance than Trump when it came to the debate. And quite frankly, Trump started out pretty good. He ended up pretty good at the very end of it, but he kept getting baited and letting her get underneath his skin, which he did. And quite frankly, did not stick to the areas of policy where it really would have been his to take advantage of if he would have. But of course, He's kept going off because, of course, he can't seem to stick to one particular subject. He starts going off on things that have nothing to do with the future. And quite frankly, most people on both sides of the camp said that it was a lost opportunity for him.
Tom, you must have been watching CNN or MSNBC.
No, I didn't. I watched the debate, and then I watched responses.
I'm talking about as far as the post-debate comments. You must have been listening to people. You must have been listening to people with brain left for to come to that conclusion. Because here's the thing: is that Kamala didn't answer any questions about her policy. You don't know one thing about her policies and what she stands for after the debate than you knew before the debate. So you can't mention one thing when asked if the people are better off now than they were 4 years ago when you and Biden took office. She gave us a rendition about her. Hold on, Tom. She gave us a rendition about her mother being middle class, how she grew up middle class. Her mother worked, saved money to buy a house. We learned about the nanny. Did she answer the question about what people are better off now? She knows that people are not better off now. She didn't answer. There's not one thing, Tom. You can't. I'll put you on the spot. There's not one thing you can tell me now that you learned about her and her policies from the debate. And that was the same thing that the independents who were surveyed, because CNN did their pre and post survey, and Kamala actually lost 2 points with independents, and Trump actually gained 2 points with independents. When I went back to get that video clip, because I wanted to show it on the show tonight, it was taken down. All of a sudden, it was gone. But on top of that,
what was gone? What do you mean?
the video clip where CNN announced the results, they did a survey, a poll before the show, and to see where people that were independent, they polled independents to get their opinion, and then they did another one after the show, and they were hoping that it would show that she had gained with independents. But what the poll showed was she had lost 2 points with independents just in that short span, and that Trump had gained 2 points. And like I said, when I went back to look for that particular clip, it was on YouTube for a short period, but then it was taken down. All of a sudden, you can't find it anymore. But on top of that, there were 2 other surveys that were done by pretty reputable people. One was Frank Luntz, who always does his surveys. He does the live surveys, and then a guy named Nate Silverman. Now, Frank Luntz is on Fox. He's their pollster, and I know he's hired by Fox to do polls and do these surveys, but he's not necessarily a Trump person, so you can't really accuse him of being a Trumper. He says he's independent, but he criticizes Trump more than any pollster I know, except I can't think of that lady's name. But anyway, him and Nate both had their surveys. They do the live surveys. They have a group of Republicans and Democrats and independents. And what they do is that while the debate is going on, they have you turn a dial whether you agree with the speaker or not. So Republicans, you would see the number go up for when Trump was speaking from the red line for Republicans, and you would see the number go up, the blue line go up when Kamala was speaking from the Democrats. But then the other line was a yellow line. That was the independents. And 95% of the time, that line from independents went up with Republicans, basically saying they agree with the positions of Trump. Only a few times did they ever go up and saying they agree with Kamala. So the independents are the ones who are going to make the difference this election.
I would agree with that.
Okay. And so based on the actual live survey from the debate, the independents cut more, 95% versus 5%, with that's a 90% difference with Trump siding with Trump versus Kamala. So if it's really about the results, like you say, it's all about the championship. It's not about the style of the marketing.
Agreed.
So if it's really about the results, then I would say the independents are the championship is the result. So I would say Trump won. But like I said, if you're looking for style points, she had 2 weeks where she did very little for his campaigning, hidden in a hotel room for 2 weeks to prepare for this, whereas Trump was out campaigning every day and just went in there and did the debate with very little prep. That's how much he thought of her. but obviously she thought highly of him, that she had to prepare for 2 weeks. And so I'll give her a point, style point. She was ready. She was polished. She knew how to push his buttons and kind of get him off talking points. We didn't talk about the border as much. He didn't talk about the economy as much, where he should have pivoted to those things and hammered her on it to make the point that people are worse off now than they were 4 years ago when he left office. So I'll give her points for that, and I'll give her the style points. So she was smooth and she was glib. But once again, Tom, she said nothing of substance. She didn't say anything on how she was going to improve the lives of people. It was all about joy and a positive vibe, and how she was going to have something called an opportunity economy, but she doesn't explain what an opportunity economy was. And if you've done an opportunity economy so far in the last 4 years, then show us where you've done that. That you've like, hey, this is not just a pie in the sky idea. This is something I've already done as vice president, because me and my boss, we did this, and we have the results to show that opportunity economies exist. But Tom, she can't talk about it because she hasn't done it. She hasn't done anything worthwhile or noteworthy as vice president. And you or anyone else who supports her can't mention anything in the last 3.5 years that she put her finger on, be it the Ukraine war, the border, or anything, or space for that matter. Hell, we got 2 people stuck up in the space lab who can't come down, and she's, last time I checked, the vice president is over NASA. So that's something that she controls directly, and NASA can't even get astronauts up into space and down who were supposed to go up there for 8 days and come down, and they stuck up there for 8 months. I'll let you on the floor.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm going to keep mine short because we've got a second half.
No, keep it long. We got 2 segments. We already covered.
No, we got some other stuff to get to. This isn't just what we're talking about.
No, this is the most important topic this week.
But see, that's like been a month ago, it feels like. So we're not going to spend
that was just last week, Tom. It wasn't a month ago.
We're going to not spend the rest of the time on one subject because there are other important things that have happened since then. I would say this, and let me finish. First is, in terms of nothing substantive in there, one thing that we do know is that she's focused on the middle class. What does that look like? That looks like, of course, a small business tax deduction to small businesses. We understand that small businesses are really the driver of our economy. We understand that big business ultimately moves the big needle. But in terms of folks in the middle class and folks who are trying to get there in order to feed their children, it's small businesses. And so she talked clearly about her small business tax credit of $50,000 for companies that are trying to start a small business. She talked about, of course, the child tax credit, which, of course, for folks who are trying to start families, of course, is going to be extremely important. We obviously don't need to spend a lot of time in terms of where she stands with, in terms of abortion. She believed that women should have the right to make decisions, of course, when it comes to, the decisions that they are making in terms of their interest, whether it's under unfortunate circumstances or whether it's going to be starting a family, Jimmy. And in terms of anybody of any credibility who said that Donald Trump absolutely won that debate, I think I remember a guy by the name of Lindsey Graham, who was pretty doggone close to Trump, who said he fumbled the ball on this one. So all that being said, what she did not do is she did not create division by advocating things that were not happening. Unfortunately, we've got a bunch of folks. Unfortunately, we do talk a lot about Haiti. And now she's got folks literally threatening Haitians in Springfield, Ohio, because she's not the one who advocated lies that came from somebody who lied about them eating people's pets, their cats and dogs. That's not a policy issue. But all that being said, Jimmy, we need to talk about that. We need to talk about a couple of other things before we end the show. And it's already
Tom, do not make me go out and get the videos of folks who claim their pets have come up missing since
they can claim anything they want to, but show me.
On top of that, Tom,
Jimmy, show me
the reservoir. The reservoir there in Springfield is. Hold on, Tom. The reservoir there in Springfield is just covered with feathers because not all the geese and the ducks have been eaten from people who are living in tents there. Not only that, but other small animals also.
He was talking about cats and dogs. He was talking cats and dogs, not geese.
Okay, Tom. Okay, so if a person will eat the geese out of a lake, they'll eat your dog or your cat, or they'll use it for a ritual, Tom. But anyway, something that you said that needs to be clarified. First of all, this is not $50,000 for you to start a small business. This is First of all, we already give tax credits for people who start business, especially if you buy equipment. They'll allow you 100% write-off depreciation in the first 2 years. But Tom, you have to have a small business that's making money and that you're taking money and reinvesting back in your business to get those tax credits. Don't think that they're just lining up giving you $50,000 like they give the immigrants.
That I did not say, Jimmy.
Okay, I just want to make clear for
That I
people
did
to
not
understand
say. And again,
that when she talks about a $50,000 credit for small business, we already give a $20,000 credit for that small business if you start one. And if your business is profitable and you reinvest those profits back into your business, then yes,
they want you to reinvest. They don't want you taking money.
So, but that's a position she took before the debate. The $6,000 child care credit, both sides can agree on that, so that's nothing new. She had talked about that before the debate. Once again, there was nothing in the debate.
Jimmy, you just said she said nothing of substance.
That's what I said. There was nothing in the debate.
But you said
there was nothing of substance that you learned during the debate. Everything that she talked about, these are already things that you knew before the debate.
No, people did not.
Because people,
everybody did not know.
Independents, why are independents saying they don't know anything about our policies? You didn't learn anything more about our policies after the debate than you knew before. There was nothing of substance.
That is not true. That isn't
true.
You
learned about a babysitter. You learned about a mother having a work hard. You learned that a mother worked to save money to buy a house, that she was middle class, that she grew up in the hood of Oakland, which is a lie. She grew up in Berkeley, in Canada. She talked about being bused to school. But if you go back and check, like I have, California didn't have any child busing during the 60s or 70s. So once again, another lie. She talked about working at McDonald's. She never worked at McDonald's. They can't find a W-2 or a 1099 that ever shows she worked at McDonald's. She said that she smoked weed in the dorms at Howard and would listen to Tupac and Snoop Dogg. Well, Tupac was 11 years old when she was in school. He wasn't making records at that time. Tom, there's nothing of style. There's nothing but style in this lady. There's nothing of substance. So, but anyway, it's working for her. It seemed to be working because half the population seemed to be hell-bent on voting for her, even though she hadn't accomplished anything in the last 3.5 years, versus when Trump says he's going to stimulate the economy. Well, he can talk about what he's already done to stimulate and turn around the economy by cutting out regulations, by lowering taxes, increasing energy, lowering the cost of energy, which that in and of itself will lower the cost of, because everything we buy is shipped and moved somehow. It takes energy to move these goods around. You cut that cost, you can cut inflation down drastically. But that administration that she's with now, they cut back leases in the Gulf. They stopped issuing new leases on public land until recently, this last year. They got rid of the drilling and war. They got rid of the pipeline. They've done everything to sabotage the energy market. They drove the cost of energy up, and inflation with overspending went up with it. And so this is their accomplishment. She can't talk about. She can't talk about any of the things they've done for the last 3.5 years. So all she can talk about is what she did as a prosecutor. And go listen to the comments of Joe Brown talk about her as a prosecutor, where he talked about how sorry she was, how weak she was, how unpolished she was, and that she didn't work hard as a lawyer. So, but this is the woman that wants a promotion with no accomplishment to back any of it up. So if folks are willing to take the chance that the last 4 years is worth another 4 years to repeat this mess that we have, where people, Tom, can't pay their bills, can't feed their children, having to make a choice of not eating themselves in order to just put a little food on the table, seniors who have to make the choice about food or medicine. I mean, this is tough times that we're in. Not everybody's doing pretty well. My wife and I have survived it, but even though we can afford a lot of this cost, we've cut back drastically because we just don't want to pay the additional cost. And there are a lot of people who have the money who also don't want to pay the additional cost, but there are a lot of people who are less fortunate than us who can't afford to pay the additional cost. And those are the people that I really feel for. And unfortunately, many of those have been sucked in on style to vote for this lady and give her a promotion. And all they're going to get is another 4 years of exactly what we have right now. It's not going to improve.
While we have probably an unprecedented labor shortage. Okay. Why don't we do this? It's 8:40. and we still have not gotten if we're going to get to the movie, and I think it's actually a play.
It is a play, Tom. So,
so if we're going to do that, we need to do that now. So we still have
let's do it now.
To the music.
Same rules apply, and everyone should be familiar with this play, especially if you tuned in last week.
And you're only asking for the title.
The title.
Of the play. It is not a
right. You don't have to know the actors or the writers or anything, just the title of the play.
But
Here we
you
go.
will definitely know the actor.
Yes.
Me, Mrs. Stawicki is the one you got the questions for.
How come you ain't never liked me?
Liked you. Who in the hell ever said, I got to like you? What law is there to say, I got to like you? Do you want to stand up in my face and ask me some damn fool-ass question like that? Talk about liking somebody. Come here, boy, when I talk to you. Straighten up, goddammit. Ask your question. What law is there to say, I got to like you?
None.
All right, then. Don't you eat every day? Answer me when I talk to you. Don't you eat every day?
Yeah.
Nigga, as long as you living in my house, you put a sir on the end of it when you talk to me. Yes, sir. You eat every day.
All right, Jimmy, we do have a response. We do have a correct response. It is
wait, back up. Okay, you better have a ton of correct responses. It should just come down to a timing issue of who can type it in first. What do you mean we got a correct response?
Okay, Jimmy, you're not seeing everything. You're not seeing everything that I'm seeing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We get what you're saying because it is not a raisin in the sun, but we do have, of course, our good friend Uncle Azar, who did get the actual name of the play correct, which is Fences. It is not a raisin in the sun. It is Fences. Of course, that was James Earl Jones, who, of course, was made, his soul rest peacefully forever, who was exhibiting his brilliance on the stage. Of course,
very brilliant actor.
It was Fences, and Asar did get that. And for those who are looking, of course, he texts on a third-party platform because he, for whatever reason, cannot get on the chat line. Jim, we're going to have to figure out how to get Asar on the chat line so we can make sure he's with everybody. If all these other folks we're going to have to figure out how to get Asar on the chat line.
Yes, we got to. Hey, Tom, why don't we do this if you don't mind? Let's go ahead and do our second song also so we can spend the last time that we have finishing our stories.
And we've got about 3-ish stories that we need to at least tell.
So let's get the last song out of the way, and then we'll move on to devote the rest of our time to the stories.
Okay.
Here we go. Last song, people.
All right.
And you first found love, how you felt so good. And it lasts forever, Lord. So you thought it would. Suddenly the things you see got you hurt so bad, so bad. How come the things that make us happy make us sad?
All right. Let's see what we've got. All right, we got about 25 seconds left. I do have someone who is getting the artist of record for whatever reason, Jimmy. I'm not getting very much on the chat line. Oh, okay. All right, this is where we are, Jimmy. Uncle Asaf was the first to get the artist of record correct. Frankie Beverly, of course, and I'm gonna have to lean on you. I'm gonna have to lean on you on this one, Jimmy. We got a response, Joy Pain, but it's Joy Pain, and of course, after Joy, Cousin Audrey said Joy Payne. Uncle Lassar came in a little bit after her and said Joy and Payne. So you gotta let me know which one, because you kind of
It is Joy and Pain.
it is Joy, but she said Joy Payne. Uncle Lassar said Joy and Payne. So Cousin Audrey came in first, but she just said Joy Payne. She didn't include the and. So I'm gonna have to let you the rule maker.
No, you the judge.
I'm
Don't
the
blame on
judge.
me.
I'll tell you what happened, but does Joy Payne without the and count? Or does it?
Was an and symbol in there?
No, it was not. It was just Joy Payne.
I would say Uncle Sar's answer was more correct, even though it wasn't the first response, but it was more correct than anybody else's.
All right. Well, then Asar gets.
I'm sorry, Cousin Audrey. Was it Cousin Audrey?
I was trying to cut, but Jimmy made the rules on these. So.
I mean, if nobody else gave a correct response, I would have said okay, that was close enough.
All right, good deal. Well, Asar was the first to say Joy and Payne, even though Cousin Audrey said Joy Payne.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Cousin Audrey. So definitely tune in next week and have another chance. But congrats to Uncle Asar.
All right, good deal. All right, we've got a couple of other stories that we do need to address.
Tom.
Pretty serious. Jimmy had a devastating story that I'm quite trying to understand why it's not on national news. But a young lady in Indianapolis, a sister, was found murdered and assaulted, and it turns out that a local Uber driver, unfortunately, has been arrested for the alleged murder and assault of a Indianapolis woman by the name of Shantae Dixon, who he dumped her body in an alleyway, threw her bones into the woods, and has now been charged with murder in Marion County, Indiana. Jimmy, and his name is Francisco Valdez, 29. He was arrested this past Tuesday by the police department homicide detectives after he reportedly admitted he shot and killed the 30-year-old in a fit of rage after picking her up as an Uber driver and attempting to rape her in the back of his car. Originally, he told a story saying that somebody else had tried to assault her in the car and she ran off. And then they came up with some more evidence and he changed his story, saying that, he had tried to help the situation. And then he couldn't change his story enough times. And he had finally admitted that he was the one who actually murdered and attempted to assault a corpse because she was dead. He shot her in the head. And the sad thing about it, Jimmy, this young lady was actually going home from work. I think it was a little bit after 3 a.m. In the morning, and he picked her up, and he claimed that, he was a 30-year-old virgin and that he would pay her to, have sex. And she kind of laughed and kind of blew it off. And I guess this enraged him, and he tried to assault her, Jimmy. And I'm trying to understand how this is just local news. Uber is an international company.
I'm trying to understand the opposite. Why, of all the murders that take place, especially in the Black community, on a daily basis, or even in Chicago compared to the rest of the, why would one more murder, not to make her killing insignificant, is not, but how did this get elevated to a national level?
Well, one thing we do know is that if certain women are missing after half a day, it's on international news. But unfortunately, when our sisters come up missing, maybe national news is only concerned with a Black woman who presents a false kidnapping incident report and police are chasing after her. But when she is murdered and assaulted, that's not big news. And I understand there are a lot of murders out there. But one thing I do say is that, if as men, if we do nothing else, because Uber is the largest ride lifting company out there. I am not saying that this is reflective of Uber as a whole, but what we do need to understand is because we have so many people, men and women who use Ubers, and women in particular who we seek to protect, is that we need to at least make sure that folks are aware and are very careful in terms of how they are operating. And unfortunately, this was very, very late at night or early in the morning, Jimmy. But for what it's worth, yeah, I understand we have gang murders all over the place in Chicago and Baltimore and every place.
No, actually, Tom, I'm going to rescind that statement.
Black on black.
I'm going to take that. I want to take my statement back. Actually, it's good that you did find this story and bring it to my attention. I think I spoke too quickly. And 2 weeks ago, my daughter, she had a car. Her car stopped on her, and so she pulled over and pulled into a parking lot and parked. And she called me. But she does this on a regular basis. Anytime she has to take an Uber, she called me and told me she was basically going to get a lift to take her home, and then have the car towed the next day to the repair shop. And I just thought about that. So I think the sad thing here, Tom, is that she had to get a ride share and had no one to call to let them know where she was and what she was doing. And I would maybe advise all the sisters out there, all the women out there, period, that if you find yourself having to do a ride share in the middle of the night, and be able to call somebody and let them know what's going on. Hey, I'm going to take a Lyft or an Uber back to my house. My car is stopped, and I'll come back and deal with it tomorrow, or whatever the situation is. So someone would know that when you get home, if they don't hear from you, that something happened, and that she didn't have that in place. That kind of support system in place is sad.
It is. And again, all that being said is people take hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of Ubers every day. This is just a very bad situation, not a good look for Uber. And I don't know if this guy, there's not enough information out there yet if this guy ever had a history of violent behavior, background, any criminal history. That information is not out yet. But this is an absolutely devastating story. She is a mother of 2 children. She is a daughter, beautiful young lady whose life is taken at a very young age. She now has 2 children who do not have a mother. She now has a mother who has lost her daughter. And again, I ran into this story. I saw it on some local news outlets. But again, all I'm going to say is that for some people, if they are missing for half a day, it's like a nationwide manhunt. And this happened, I guess, a few days ago. And I just ran into this story. And I know so many people who take Uber. If this was my cousin, if this was, somebody that I knew, I can't even begin to express the feelings that I have for something like this to happen to anybody's family member, their loved one, their daughter, their mother, anybody. And I'm not saying this could happen to a man, but for this to happen to a sister, Jimmy, public hangings isn't good enough.
Well, Tom, I'm gonna say this, and I know the eggs are gonna be thrown towards the screen, so I know the rage I'm going to receive, even though I can't hear you or read your mind. I know it's out there. I'm going to say it anyway, Tom. This is a direct result of how we've been transformed into people who don't care about life. We don't care about the babies in the womb. We're okay with aborting babies up to the time they're of birth. And if we don't care about life, we take prayer out of school, we minimize the impact of God in our lives, and we kill people at such an alarming rate that we don't even think, it doesn't bother us anymore. We don't go to bed worried. And I don't know how, if I didn't live in where I live, I couldn't live in these large cities with these type of activities and murder rates the way they are, because I'd be too stressed every day. But we somehow adjust to this and get used to it. And so I can see why, when people look at the landscape, they say, well, Black folks don't care about a Black person dying. That's not even news to them, because so many Black people, they're confronted with death and surrounded by death, so much of it, that they don't care about it. They're totally desensitized to it. And the way we feel about abortion and killing babies in the womb just backs that up. And then we reinforce it. The icing on the cake is our is that we used to be a very godly, spiritual people, but even that's come under challenge and is changing. So it doesn't surprise me that this is not a national story. And I don't think, other than Black Men Speak, you probably won't find maybe any other outlets where this story is even news, even talked about, or even cared about.
I would say this, it's not a national story because mainstream media, which isn't controlled by our community, doesn't care about our children, doesn't care about our women or our men.
Tom, we don't care about our children.
No, that's not true. Now that's
Tom,
not
come
true.
on.
You
If
can't
we
say,
cared about our children, we'd fight for better
you cannot
schools.
say that
We fight
don't.
for better conditions for our school. We demand before we give our vote to somebody that they give us something in return. We don't do those things. I'm not trying to hear that we care about our kids and let them go to these schools. The public schools we know are terrible. We don't, Tom. We don't care enough. I'm not going to say we don't care. We don't care enough to fight for them. We don't care enough about our women to protect them. We've covered this so many times, and you keep making these statements, and to somehow reduce the culpability, our culpability as Black men from all of this. And Tom, we're the chief. We're the head of the problem. We are the problem here.
Clarify that, Jimmy. When you say we're the problem,
we're the problem because we're not providing leadership for our families. We're not there to raise our kids. We're not there for our communities. We don't care enough to fight to make sure that.
How does that relate to this particular sister here?
It relates to them, Tom, because if we don't care about our women and children,
and you're saying that we don't,
sheep among our community, how do we expect anyone else to care about?
What you're saying is we don't.
I'm saying we don't care enough. I'm not saying we care some, but we don't care enough.
When you say we don't care, because there are a lot of people who do.
There are a lot of people that do, Tom. There are a lot of people who watch this show who like us who do care. It's not enough, Tom. That's what I'm saying. We don't have enough critical mass to care to make a difference.
We live in a culture that glamorizes violence. We live in a culture that thrives on violence. Those are just the facts, Jimmy. And one thing I will agree.
I tell you what
is that there is very little respect for life, but that's because we live in a culture that glamorizes violence and is numb to death, numb to murder, numb to disrespect.
What is when you were doing telephony sales? What would you say was the whitest city that was in your territory?
There were many of them, Jimmy.
Just pick one.
Oh, geez. I could say probably Idaho was the most homogeneous state.
I was going to say maybe Iowa for me.
No,
Iowa City, but
it's Idaho.
Idaho. Okay, let's say a city in Idaho. If little Mary came up missing, how long would it take for the people there in the town to organize a search party, to gather everyone up, to go out into the woods, to go out into the creeks in the rural areas, to look for little Mary? It wouldn't take very long at all, Tom. They'd be out there the next day looking for little.
That probably.
Let little Shaniqua come up missing and see how many of our people come together to organize.
That's because people don't care about our community.
Tom, we don't care about our community.
That is not a fact. That is not a fact, Jimmy.
Okay.
That is not
so you want other people to care more than we care. You want other people to go look for our children who come up missing. We don't look for them.
No, that I did not say. Those are alternative facts. I never said that.
Okay, what are you saying? That was the scenario I gave you.
You said that we don't care, and I'm saying we do.
I said we don't care enough. You got to get the whole sentence correctly. We don't care enough, Tom.
How do you measure that?
If little Shaniqua comes up missing from the Black community, the next day, how many people would you have organize a search party to go look for in the Black community? None.
Look, this came up the next day after this happened. What I'm saying is this was local news, not national news. We don't control national news platforms, but this was a local news item that I wanted to advocate.
Organizing a search party is something we have control over.
The sister came up there, so it wasn't a search party.
Okay, not in this scenario. The scenario I gave you was not pertaining to this particular case.
But see, you know what? You're right, Jimmy, but this is the sad part about it, and I know you've seen this if you're being honest with us all. When we report our missing children, you know what? For some reason, law enforcement they don't really pay that much attention to it if it comes from
They don't. That's correct.
We have seen this so many times.
That's
So
true.
it is not that we don't care. It's that the law enforcement community that's
It is that we don't
that
care
is
because you know what?
responsible for protecting and serving,
I'll be willing to bet
they sit on it.
if 100 black men came together right now in whatever city you want,
We don't need 100.
okay, even 50, came together to do a search of the community, look around because some child was missing, that would make news. In fact, just the fact that you got 50 men, black men, to come together would scare the hell out of people. They didn't want to come and see what was going on. They sent the law enforcement out just to make sure it was copacetic and on the up and up because that.
And I've seen that. I have seen that.
And so that is caring to me, Tom.
I've seen that. And then you know
we
what?
can do
And Jimmy, the sad thing about it is
we care.
And the sad thing about it is
when you come up missing kind of signals to me that we don't care enough.
Jimmy, this is the sad thing. I have actually seen men, black men, come together. And for what it's worth, when we do that, all of a sudden, we become a threat. We're mongrelized. People begin to, it's the truth.
True.
It's the truth.
But I'm saying that would be enough to draw the attention of the press. It would draw law enforcement.
People start getting scared.
Yes, they do. That's correct.
Black men going out doing their duty.
That is correct.
All of a sudden you're on the 5 o'clock news. You know what? You can't get any help when you need help. But when you decide, you know what, we're going to take this into our own hands, then all of a sudden you become a threat.
Yes, Tom, that's true. I agree with that. But you know what? But then you would have the national attention that you want, and you would have law enforcement also there to make sure everything was on the up and up.
They don't do their jobs, at least for us. And let me reevaluate that. In too many instances, when it's our children, our women, our young boys who come up missing, it's weeks. It's weeks. When we do what we are told to do, call the authorities. We're not professional investigators. We're just everyday working people who are trying to raise our children, who are trying to take care of our families. We don't have the professional credentials to figure out what and how to do these things. But the folks who do, when it comes to our family, our community, our children, it may be weeks until we do something completely spellbounding. And then all of a sudden, we become a threat.
Well, Tom, weeks is being generous. It may be months
exactly
or never.
Agreed.
So you may just be in a cold case file and never be found again for many years unless someone trips up and finds some bones that they dug up somewhere. We bear some responsibility for that, Tom, because you know what? In some of the cities that we live in, the Atlantas of the world, the Baltimores of the world, the Chicagos of the world, the LAs of the world, the New Yorks of the world, we control the Houstons of the world. We control the politics of those cities. We elect the mayors. The mayors hire the police commissioners and the police chiefs. And so you telling me that in areas where we live and we control, that we still have these type of attitudes from law enforcement. We can't do a better job at managing that than what we do. And if that's the case, Tom,
and this is why, Jimmy, in a lot of these cities where we live, we don't particularly control. And when I say that to mean from a law enforcement perspective. Many of these cities, including the largest one in the county that I live in, we may live here, but we don't really control the law enforcement apparatus. When we look at the politics of the country, even though we may be sitting in a chair, it's the money families who control the policy of these cities, even though folks might like us may be sitting in some of the seats such as mayors and council people of these cities. And so on the surface, it may look like we control these cities, but not exactly. And if we talk about the law enforcement apparatus, we don't have enough of our community who are in the law enforcement apparatus of our communities who would give a doggone about going out. So when we have a young man who is going to school or who is leaving school, his mom can't find him, he reports him missing to the authority. It takes weeks for them to take his missing body seriously, and then he is found in a river. And then on top of that, unfortunately, they want to say that a bear or some hungry animal ate him, when it's clear that a doggone bear cannot shave somebody's cranium off. All that being said is, I get what you're saying, and in principle, you're right, but where we live doesn't mean we particularly control the
Well,
politics.
Tom, let me say it another way so people can fully understand. I think one of the parables that Jesus gave about fruit from the trees said there were good trees and there were bad trees, and that the good tree bears good fruit, the bad tree bears bad fruit, the good tree does not bear bad fruit, and the bad tree does not bear good fruit. Tom, we've been eating from the wrong damn trees for 60 years. And if we can't control a city that we are the populace, the largest population group that we control the politics of, you're telling me that we don't control these cities when we have black mayors, black city councilors, black police chiefs, black up and down city superintendents, teachers, counselors, and we still can't control that city, then you know what? We need to start eating from a different tree. Allow somebody, let the Asians just come in and run the city for you, damn, if that's the case. If you can't do a better job, and the people there, you can't expect people there who look like you, skin kin, who look like you and don't look out for you and your interests. If that's the case, if what you're saying is true, which I don't disagree with you, because obviously it is true, then we have to do a better job. Tom, it still comes back to our personal responsibility of demanding more for our support. We just give it away. We can't continue to go down this path, Tom, eating bad fruit from a bad tree and expecting good results. The Bible tells you that doesn't happen. And if you believe anything that Jesus taught you, understand that particular parable of what Jesus is trying to tell you. Don't expect good results when you eat from a bad tree. And we've been eating from a bad tree for 60 or 70 years and somehow expect good fruit or good results from it. It's not. It's going to get indigestion. Why
don't we call it well over 400 years of eating from a bad tree?
How do we reverse it, Tom?
Well over 400 years of eating from a bad tree. At least in this country. At least in this country.
Well, Tom, we started planting good seeds by educating our kids to do right, to live right, pull your pants up, put a belt on, stop referring to our women as B's and W's, stop disrespecting our sisters, strengthening our families, going to work every day, letting our kids see what it's like for a man to go to work every day and be responsible and take care of his responsibility, provide some leadership, some agency to our kids, to let them know that we demand. Because if other kids can get PhDs by the time they're 18, I can expect you to be on the honor roll by the time you're 18 at a minimum. And so in having a strong force in the family to demand these things are things that we can control and start with. And then when we have a school system that doesn't educate our kids properly, we need to be at the forefront. That 50, there should be 1,000 at that point out in front of the school protesting to get rid of the current leadership who's allowing this to happen. What I'm saying is, Tom, is that people would take us serious as a group of people when we take and care about ourselves. Right now, when they look at our culture and see the women out there, what is that dance called? They clap their booty or something, or
I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking.
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff that they see from our culture, and that we don't care about our kids, we don't fight for anything, we don't demand anything, and then we listen to our celebrity class and over anything else. You know, come on, Tom. How would you expect anyone to take us serious? And so, they look past us.
We converge.
It's not right. I'm not saying that's right. It's definitely not right. You know, what you describe is definitely correct. All 100% of it, the way you describe it. But unfortunately, where we disagree is that I blame us for it more than anything before I blame others.
I can't disagree with you. And we agree on that too. The challenge that we've got on this, Jimmy, is that we agree that we agree, because I do agree that we sell ourselves out, but it's a complicated story because we sell ourselves out for money. Why do we have to do that? In order to feed our children, in order to keep a roof over our head. And so, there was someone who said that the new slavery is the money. And so you sell your community out, you sell yourselves out for money. We don't have to have time to have the long conversation on that, but the short conversation on that is, all of our movements that have worked in our interest have been sold out from the inside. And in a lot of cases, that selling out from the inside, a lot of what you're talking about comes down to selling out for the money. And so when you talk about folks who are misrepresenting themselves, misrepresenting their families, misrepresenting our community, they do it for the money. And that is the new slavery. Those are the new chains. And and all that so-called money or wealth, not power, is controlled from outside of our community. And not until we are willing to reject that, and not until we're willing to serve our interests, even under the threat of having to suffer economically from it, will any of this be resolved.
Well, Tom, you are absolutely correct. It is about the money. Because when you look at the poverty rate among blacks in 1920, it was 80%. And by 1960, without any help or intervention from the government, our poverty rate was down to 30%. So we shaved 50 percentage points off the poverty rate by just working and doing it ourselves. We know about, Black Wall Street. We know about Rhodes. We know about other areas that were thriving and growing until folks came in and destroyed those areas. And what we replaced all that.
Folks. It wasn't just folks. We know who it was.
Well, don't get me started on who those folks were. But yes, it were white folks, Tom, but not just all white folks.
Oh, I know. It was the federal government in collaboration. It was the federal government in collaboration with the state government who lets the money flow through to the local government.
That's correct. So
what we also know is that those two sisters, 110 years old, give or take, are still not going to get any degree of justice for what happened to them and their families.
Well, that's correct,
Oklahoma.
Tom.
And we know who Oklahoma is.
So we sold out our self-reliance for a little coin from the government, and we stopped marrying. 95% of black kids up until 1960 were in a home with a mother and a father. And now when it got to 25%, people like Monahan said this was an alarming rate that black kids are being born into houses with just a single mother. Tom, now it's over 75% and growing. And still, it was a problem back in the 60s. It's a problem now. So you're right. We've sold ourselves out for a few coins, and the Bible tells us what happened to people who sell their conviction out for a few coins. I think it's called Judah. We saw how that resulted. And so we're doing the same thing, and somehow we expect good fruit from bad actions. It's not going to happen, Tom. We have to have a renaissance. We have to totally change the way we think and the way we behave. And unfortunately, we may have to just start a whole new generation. The only thing I got encouraged this year, Tom, because of all of the young kids from this year and last year that we chronicled who were doing some really great things. Because, up until that point, I was ready to just say we used to have to wipe the slate clean and start over with a whole new generation of black kids and put them on the right track. And now I'm even more optimistic that we still need to do that. But I'm encouraged at the fact that the kids that we've chronicled on this show demonstrate what can be the future for us, what the possibility and the realization can be if we focus our kids on doing the right thing. All of our kids, why can't all our kids go out and get a college degree by the time they're 18? It's not just a handful of our kids that are capable. All of our kids are capable. And so we got to push them for those results and to go out and do great things. We can do that, Tom, if we get our mind focused on doing the right thing. And so those are things that are within our control. And I guarantee you, if we were doing those things, all of the outside world, whose acceptance that we look up to and put so much weight behind what other people think of us, they would think more highly of us as a group of people. We would have exactly what we want. Right now, people look down on us. They feel sorry for us. They feel they got to protect us.
They don't feel sorry for us. They just feed off of us. And when I say that to the degree that the majority of us are not willing to make the sacrifice in order to do business with us so that we can build our own economies. And the only way that you can build institutions are to build businesses. And in order to build businesses, you have to invest and spend inward, not outward. I would say as a whole, I don't know the exact number, but I would suffice it to say probably close to 90, if not 90% of our money is spent outside of our community. That is where it starts. And until you are willing to do that, then you cannot build your economy. You cannot build your own institutions. Until you can build your economy, economies and your institutions, you have no control over anything that is going to get anything close to what you're talking about, Jimmy.
Tom, I just saw a recent study on this, and instead of we've done these flipping dollars in your community and based it on days. This person did based it on time also, but she said based on her study and her results of her study that money flips in the black community, it stays in there for 36 minutes, and then in the Asian community for 28 days. And this is why the Asian community has more collective wealth, in addition to them being the top earners in America, have more collective wealth than black folks. We've been here 400 years, since 1619, when the first Africans came to these shores. And we've allowed others to have outpace us and be more successful. But Tom, we already know while they approach education, how they approach personal accomplishment, how they work together, and they do all the things that we should be doing, but we don't. And so it's a sad testimony. I wish there is another young leader, man or woman, who comes along and kicks off the next renaissance that needs to happen, that takes us into a new age of understanding that we're not going to be saved through politics. We're not going to be saved by government. That if anyone's going to save us, we're not even going to be saved by the black church anymore. I've lost so much confidence in the black churches from where they used to be to where they are now. And you're correct. It's all about the dollar. It's all about the Benjamin with everybody. And so if we're going to be saved, Tom, we're going to have to come together and save ourselves.
Amen.
That means our kids and families.
And the lesson learned from this, people, is that our politics may not be the same, but Jimmy and I converge on very fundamental areas in terms of reaching the end game, and that is building an environment where we control our destiny. And so shout out to Jack Jenkins, shout out to Jackie McFadden, two brothers who are contractors. Jackie does electrical work. Jack Jenkins does a little bit of everything, including handiwork. I spent a couple $100 with them each within the last day. That's what we've got to do, and I'm very intentional about that. I don't really talk about it, but it's just a small example of being intentional about making other people money in order to build our community. That's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down
to. And that means you have to drive further and spend more to do so. That's what you've got to do. There is no other answer. It's what everybody else who has built their own economy and who has control over their destiny does.
Yeah, my daughter's having a plumbing problem where she's had to turn her water off.
I got a brother who is a certified plumber. He's very good. So
I got a brother too who's supposed to come out Tuesday. And then called and said he got tied up and he can't come to Saturday. It was like, hey, do you understand that my daughter's in a house where she's having to turn the water off, and how she's having to live, turn the water on, collect water, turn it back off.
If he can't get there till Saturday, I will give you.
If he doesn't come on Saturday, I'm going to be calling.
Reference. If he can get there earlier, hey, it's in the back.
If you're not there on Saturday, I will give you a call. And the only reason that I didn't call somebody else, because I would have if it was normally in a normal circumstance, but it's like, okay, I got to give the brother a chance.
Agreed.
Agreed. Sometimes these things happen, so I understand, but just understanding the pressure I'm under. My daughter's in the house with a water short. She can't take a bath. She can't turn the water on.
That's fine. So I would say this: have a plan A, B, and C. Brother A, brother B, and brother C, or sister A, sister B, and sister C for your services.
So yes, I'll be giving you a call Sunday after Saturday, at least Sunday, if he doesn't show up on Saturday. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I'm doing everything possible to do business with black-owned businesses, because you're right. We got to become part of the solution, and sometimes we got to understand and be a little patient with black-owned businesses because they don't have all the resources and everything in place that a lot of their counterparts have. But if we patronize them enough, they can put these things in place.
Electrician. Plumber, yard guy, roofer. Even though I'll be frank, he does use brothers from my Latin American community in order to do the roof thing. He's the GC. So, sprinkler guy, brother, former Dallas police officer, brother. So you got to run across the board.
But Tom, we may have to bring some of your contractors on just so we can pub their business. In fact, I was just talking to Fiona from a book club.
Yeah.
She sells health insurance. So I told her to reach out to you to get a booking. So I'd like to invite her on so she can give us more details about the healthcare industry and the insurance business as a whole, and to publicize.
We might be able to do a panel discussion because obviously there are several services in that arena. So we may do.
Sure. Let's bring on the other two ladies that we had on. We talked about healthcare and see if we can get them booked. Yeah, that'll be great. So
gotcha.
Yeah,
why don't we do this? We're at 9:20. We're way over, but
we're way over.
Thanks everyone. It was worth the discussion.
Yes. And so what do we have for next week, Tom? Do we have a preview of what we're covering next week?
There were a couple of stories we didn't get to, of course, that we may flow into next week, because I did want to talk a little bit about the drama going on with Diddy right now.
There Puffy?
Of course.
Tell Puffy don't bend over for the soap.
He got picked up again, for some trafficking. He got trafficking, racketeering, and so on and so forth. And so there were a couple of things we didn't get to. Maybe we'll get to it next week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, soap on the rope for Puffy. Tell them don't bend over. Okay, anyway, Tom, we'll cover Puffy next week.
All right. Obviously, there's always something going on. So we want to thank everyone for joining us. Join us next week for another show where you're going to get some fresh news to make sure you are the most knowledgeable person within your network. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.